And nearly a century old, the school's halls have been graced by future political giants. Basketball icon Pistol Pete Maravich played home games in the gymnasium on the same hardwood where President Obama once held a town hall. It's the oldest high school in Raleigh.
I was talking with one of my former high school classmates. She says, "My God, it looks like a castle."
There are many students and alumni who refer to it simply as the castle.
It was just an enormous place, an astounding place compared to the kind of schools that we had been attending.
Something incredible happened in this auditorium in 1958 in a deeply segregated Raleigh. An audience of black people and white people all came to see a very young Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.
Say, but Dr. King, that name, I mean, he was big, in civil rights, and he's going to be here. Hey, whether he was going to be in Needham, Broughton, or wherever he was going to be, hey, you want to be there, be a part of that event.
Yeah, almost like being part of history.
Yeah, it was being a part of history.
That historic day recorded only with this single picture now framed at the door. A small write-up in NC State's Technician student newspaper talking about King's push for integration. It was 1958, and the story is not that simple. The struggle, much more complex.
We had crossed the line. Here's a black family saying that we feel that we are entitled to the same thing that whites are. That was the line you crossed. No black person was supposed to ever say that he thought or indicate that he thought that he was just as good as whites. If my son is denied admission to Broughton, we are going to sue the school board. This is in 1957.
This is bold stuff.
Yeah, a black man saying that he would sue the white establishment. My God.
Joe Holt Jr. lived down the street. His parents fought for him to be the first black student to attend an all-white Raleigh public school, to enroll Joe in the castle on the hill. Why were they willing to make such a sacrifice?
The time had arrived when blacks had the law behind them. The Supreme Court had ruled that segregation in the nation's public schools were unconstitutional. This is the highest court in the land. Now you can step forward and claim that.
But that claim was met with resistance. Joe was never allowed to attend Broughton or any white school. The only thing he and his family received, a reminder that Jim Crow was still the true law of the land.
We actually received a letter that said our home was going to be dynamited. We received phone calls all through the night, all through the day if we were at home. And these were just obnoxious and mean and hateful and threatening.
This went on for months?
This didn't go on just for months. It went on the entire time I was in high school.
And in the middle of this fight, a visit to the Triangle by the then dynamic 29-year-old civil rights leader. How important was it for him to bring that message to this city then?
I think it was extremely important to speak about integration at that time. Was courageous, I think, to do it.
Here in the auditorium at Broughton, King spoke to that mixed audience pushing for integration. He had been invited by the United Church, but the crowd was so large, they moved the speech to Broughton, in this building, on this stage, in this high school that at that point was for whites only. The fact that it was the United Church.
Yeah, the fact that it was the United Church, I think, had probably a great deal to do with the fact that we had an integrated audience.
2.5 years after the speech, Broughton had 3 new students, black students. While it was not Joe Holt, his family's sacrifice had paid off. Dr. King's movement had begun to grow. However, Holt reminds us history is not perfect, especially if we don't listen, we don't learn.
When I find myself or anybody else saying, well, we've come a long way, but we've got so much farther to go. Hell, we were saying that 50 years ago. Are we going to be saying it another 50 years down the line?
How important is it to hold on to these things?
I think as a nation, we need to look at our entire history, and we need to understand just what the history of this country has been with regard to how black people have been regarded and treated. Here in North Carolina, this is the story of America. You can't tell the story of America without including the exploitation and the mistreatment of black people. That's a part of America, whether we want to acknowledge it or not.